It's the final word T20 World Cup Daily, brought to you by Step One Underwear. Start strong, finish stronger. Andrew Fidel Fernando, that's you. My name is Bharat Sundaresan. It's very late at night here, so let's do this. I don't know how I'm full of energy. I hope you're full of energy as well. Give us a roundup of the three games that have happened today in 30 seconds.
Oh gosh. So the first one, Afghanistan, New Zealand. Afghanistan get to 182 for 6, and New Zealand end up chasing it down with quite a distance to spare. You know, they got it in 17.5 overs, only 5 wickets down. Rachin Ravinder scored some runs. Tim Seifert was the man at the top of the order who did the job there. And then the most interesting game of the day, England Nepal, which let me just bring up the scorecard. 184 for 7 for England. Nepal did a fantastic job of threatening them. You know, they just didn't quite have the batting to get over the line, but runs for Airy, runs for Brutel, runs for Lokesh Bam, and I I think it was the last 2 balls they had to get 6 runs, just couldn't quite convert that opportunity. Would have been probably the greatest day in Nepal. I mean, definitely the greatest day in Nepal cricket history. Possibly the greatest day in Nepal sporting history. But just couldn't quite get there. And then this evening, Sri Lanka, Ireland, a good old spin bowling kind of dogfight on another dusty Ketarama pitch. Sri Lanka prevailing pretty comfortably in the end by 20 runs. But you know, that was probably one of the more. It was an England-Nepal game that was the real close one.
No, absolutely. I mean, it took you 30 hours to get there, but that's all right. You did a fair job, Andrew.
It's
No, but
4 a.m.
you're
for
right.
you,
I mean,
so
there was
every
much that
second.
happened today.
Exactly. 220 games in a day, man. That's not, you can't do that in 30 seconds. You need the 30 hours. You know how I am. I like to take my time.
No, fair. You do. You're always in a hammock, or in my head, you're always in a hammock. Uh, I'm not sure what you're up to in the hammock, but you are. But you're right. I mean, there were three very different games of T20 cricket, and we will talk about the England-Nepal game a bit later in detail, Andrew, because that was the classic David Goliath kind of battle, and unfortunately for all neutral fans, England somehow managed to get over the line. But let's start with the pretty ordinary game of very low quality cricket that you and I have just covered.
Wow. I didn't think it was that bad.
From here in. Oh, wow, just because Sri Lanka won. But
Yeah.
I mean, it was just the number of dropped catches, the
Yeah.
batting was okay at times. But
Yeah.
I really thought for the kind of cricket that Ireland played, they probably had a great chance of pulling this off because as at the start of the 16th over, Curtis Camphor had just finished the previous over with a boundary. Harry Tector was batting really well. They needed 51 or 5 overs, and then they lost 7 for 30, and they completely lost the plot.
Yeah. Sri Lanka did have some bowling options going into that last 5 overs. So Dushman Chamira has been going pretty well. He had 2 overs. Matisha Patirina was an option. Wanindo Hasaranga had a couple of overs left. So Sri Lanka had bowling resources going into there and probably felt pretty comfortable, given that, you know, it was on Ireland to raise the rate. And yeah, it was a Wanindo Hasaranga over that kind of finished things off. He was, you know, bowling on one leg, a hamstring injury through, I think in his first over, he picked up a hamstring injury. We got to watch that over the next few days. That could become a problem for Sri Lanka. But, you know, he got the couple of wickets in that, I think it was the 16th over that really kind of put Sri Lanka at ease. And then it was kind of plain sailing from there. Patirina came back and finished things off with a couple of wickets as well. But yeah, it wasn't, you know, none of the teams really have had an easy go of this World Cup. You know, probably the one that we expected to be the most even contest today was New Zealand Afghanistan. That turned out to be the most kind of comfortable victory. But you know, so far, I mean, this has been a great first weekend of this World Cup. We had Netherlands pushing Pakistan, and you know, USA having a little bit of a moment against India. And you know, I know you said this is very low quality cricket, but you know, it's a tough pitch. It's not, you know, Ketarama surfaces are not easy to bat on. But yeah, there's no forgiving Ireland's fielding though. Those drop catches were absolutely appalling, and they came at such vital times. They could have changed things a lot for them.
Yeah, and that over of Matthew Humphreys, who I thought bowled well. I mean, most of the Irish spinners did. 3 drop catches, one of them George Dockrell kind of just parried it over the ropes for six. And that was the over where the game turned, because at that point, Sri Lanka had gone nearly 10 overs without hitting a boundary,
Yeah.
which is in keeping with how Sri Lanka seem to play T20 cricket. It's
Yeah.
not their best format.
No.
And talking about two teams who, have struggled in this format. Both have sort of been left behind by a lot of the other teams, including some of the associates, as we've seen so far in this World Cup. And at
Mhm.
that point, to drop three catches and another drop catch in the next over, and the Barry McCarthy over, which I will leave to you for later in the show. But I think from that point on, Ireland kind of just lost control of the game. But it could easily have gone the other way, and both
Yeah.
teams you'd think will have to play a really good cricket to progress from this group.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Sri Lanka probably. You saw Sana Jasuri sitting on the dugout there towards the end. There is a lot of pressure on that guy at the moment because of the losses that Sri Lanka have had. Fans still turned up in numbers today. It wasn't quite a packed stadium, but it was almost a packed stadium. So people are looking for a reason to get behind this Sri Lanka team, which of course is important in a World Cup that you're hosting. And had Ireland managed an upset today, the pressure on Sanath would have been immense. So there was definitely some relief there. I think they're my suspicion is that New Zimbabwe is going to be a tough game for them as well. So, but I think on balance they will. There's enough there in that Sri Lanka
Yeah.
11. But yeah, how they'll go in the Super 8s, that's yet to be seen.
It's just 2 days in, Andrew, and you spoke about the Ketarama pitch. It almost feels like we're seeing two different versions of T20 cricket, right? In India, obviously, the games have been played across a couple of venues at least. It looks like it'll be a little more batting friendly than what we've seen off the Ketarama pitch, where spin played a big role today for both teams, and we saw the Pakistan Netherlands game also be slightly low scoring.
Yeah, I mean, Ketarama is notorious for this. I mean, you've been here. We've all watched cricket here. It's just no matter how many times Sri Lanka captains ask for better batting pitches here, this is what they get. And Ketarama is kind of known for this. Yesterday we had Dasan. By the way, one of the funniest things happened to Dasan Shanaka. Poor guy. I like very much sympathize with him. Came in yesterday at the press conference, was like, we don't get good pitches to play in Sri Lanka. That's why our batters are struggling. At least in this World Cup, the ICC is overseeing it. So hopefully we get better batting pitches. First ball, and he put himself in that situation. He was like, this is why I can't, showcase my hitting ability. He comes in here, gets a thigh high full toss first ball, which he top edges and is out. So the pitch was entirely irrelevant. It's just a very Dasan Chanaka thing to happen to Dasan Chanaka. I do broadly agree with him though. Sri Lanka definitely needs to sort its pitches out because they're way off the international standard for how what kinds of surfaces are used for T20 cricket and any white ball cricket. And so then just not developing the skills that other cricketers around the world are developing on better tracks. So that's for sure, and a long-term issue. And I think after this tournament, this Ketarama track has been relayed. I think about 14 years ago. They've got. I think if they can't rejuvenate it and get a little bit more pace, a little bit more batting on this track, and I suspect it's only going to get slower and lower as the tournament wears on. There's going to be a lot of traffic on this square, and so if we get some huge dust bowls here, that's going to put a big spotlight on this surface.
And just the fact that this is Sri Lanka, one of the co-hosts playing their first home games, no, their first home game of the World Cup, and what's the energy like? And in our part of the world, or formerly my part of the world, that kind of is an indicator of what people think, or how high the hopes are of the fans over there.
Oh, hopes are not high here.
Good to
people,
know.
people have managed their expectations. Look, people will still turn out. It's almost as if you're like, hey, they just want the team to do something, and getting into the Super 8s, I think will be enough by most Sri Lankan fans' estimations. No one is expecting miracles. the sad thing to watch as a Sri Lankan cricket, lifelong Sri Lankan cricket follower, is that the incremental like lowering of our expectations every time a World Cup rolls around after 2014, when of course they won the thing. Every time a World Cup rolls around, we're just like, oh, this time it's enough if we beat Zimbabwe and Ireland. Like it's we're at that stage. But yeah, it's there's a little bit of buzz. I wouldn't say there's no buzz, but there's definitely not the kind of what you felt during the 2012, 2011 World Cups. Which is it was just like the entire country was just
Mm.
completely obsessed with this thing. It's not at that level. And I think that's a natural part of cricket having declined in or the cricket teams, men's and women's, not having made a global final in such or a global semi-final in such a long time, and having not had the kinds of results long term that the fans used to expect.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Senat Jayasuriya. I mean, he was pumping his fists on the boundary line, which I thought was very cute. And one thing I do know, having traveled to Sri Lanka quite a bit with you, is you and Senat Jayasuriya often prefer or I mean, have similar preferences when it comes to late night sports. And you always bump into each other. It's happened in my presence where you're both surprised that the other person's there. Is that happening tonight? Is what everybody needs to know.
Sorry, what was it?
Is
I
that
didn't
going to
catch.
happen tonight? Are you
Is
guys
that
going to bump into each
look?
other in that
No,
in
I
your
think
favorite night spot
I'm.
tonight?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think both of us are lying low at the moment, for different
Okay.
reasons. I won't get into it, but no meet at this spot text has gone out. Not that it ever has, but yeah, I don't think I'll be bumping into him.
Oh,
You
all right.
the great thing about
I'm
bumping
not
into
that to
the
chronicle
great
it
thing
enough.
about bumping into Sanath on a night out, by the way, is the first thing you notice is the light shining off his head. And then you're like, and every time I see a bald guy now when I'm out, I'm like, is that Sanath? And but no, it's often it's someone else.
Like you just spoke about the decline in interest around cricket, sort of, or more on managing expectations with the Sri Lankan team. You just compare that to what's happening in Nepal tonight and what's been happening with Nepal cricket for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, just the fan base. They're obsessed with their cricket team. I heard about a lot of Nepalese cricket fans who've traveled to Mumbai and to India just to follow their team. It's something else. It almost feels like Sri Lanka from 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I was in Nepal. I think 2014 was the last time I was there, and even then, there was such a buzz around cricket. That was the Paras Khadka was captain at the time. I think he's
Mm.
now involved in the highest levels of administration there. And there was, it was just Nepal was just switching from being a football country into being a cricket country. And there were like boys on the road who, when they heard, or a bunch of boys that we met, who, when they heard that I write about cricket for a living, just wanted to play cricket. They were like, "What do you do?" They got a ball out and got a bat out, and just played for hours. And I think in domestically, it's so incredibly well supported. If you see any of the footage, any of the pictures that come out of Nepal, like a domestic cricket match, absolutely packs out a stadium there. So it's so nice to see another South Asian country, or just another country that we're
Mm.
not used to seeing, develop this love for the game. And that's always fun as a cricket fan, when you have a new team bringing their flavor to a World Cup. What's great about events like this is the variety, and the just the sheer number of stories, and just sheer breadth of cricketing skill that you get to watch. And Nepal really showed what they have at the moment. They didn't get there today, but they competed very hard against a team that's hugely way more resourced, has hundreds of years of history, and a lot of kind of resources that they come into T20 cricket, and they almost got the better of them. It's a fantastic story.
Oh, nearly came down to. I mean, it did not nearly. It came down to 1-6, right? I mean, he turned down the single of the penultimate ball, did
Yeah.
Lokesh. For I mean,
Yes.
who knows, right? He takes a single there, and Karan Casey, who has a strike rate of over 150 in T20 cricket, he hits a boundary. You go into a super over, but Sam Curran kind of held his nerve in the end. But it had to be England, right? I mean, they've gone down to the Netherlands. They've obviously gone
Yeah.
down to some other teams in the past. But if they could have pulled this off against England on the back of the
Yeah.
Ashes and everything else, It would have been kind of funny as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, who doesn't like an England loss to kick off a global tournament?
Mm.
Like it's. I think even England fans want that. Like
Oh,
we've
for
come to
sure.
yeah, like at a deep level, the World Cup just feels right when that happens. Just like it feels right when Pakistan almost mess up a match against an opposition
Mm.
they've never lost to. Those are the things we come to a World Cup for, man. So I'm glad that hopefully we get a couple of actual upsets. We got some near upsets, but hopefully we get
Mm.
some. There's a lot of associate teams and a lot of underdog teams on the on the schedule for the next few days. So I'm sure that's fingers crossed we get one or two of those.
Yeah, I mean, just on that game, England made what 184 for seven. Jacob Bethel 55. Harry Brook 53. Those two got together. I mean, this time on the field. Positive headlines for the change, and then Will Jacks finished it off with an unbeaten 39. Very different to the game on. I mean, not on the same pitch, but the same venue from the previous night, where it looked like the pitch was slow and pace off the ball worked for both India and the USA. Uh, this felt like a more Wankhede pitch that I grew up on, where the ball was coming on to the bat, and Nepal nearly pulled it off. For a while, it looked like it would come down to, the captain Rohit Paudel and Dipendra Singh, but then once that partnership was broken, you felt, uh, maybe England have enough, and then Archer and Luke Wood went for a lot of runs, and yeah, I mean it came down to that last over from Sam Curran.
Yeah, and that current over was really fantastic. Like Lokesh was batting deep in his crease, trying to get under the ball. Had done it successfully earlier as well. Was seeing it very well. Had was if Sam Curran had been and Sam Curran went to his Yorkers, which are obviously not. You have to nail them. It's a kind of it's a brave ball to bowl in those situations because you get a knee high full toss out and suddenly it disappears. So credit to Curran for keeping his cool and for bowling, to not if not quite pinpoint Yorkers, but like good enough Yorkers to keep Nepal out.
Indeed, and if it had come off, for it to happen in Mumbai would have been so apt, because historically, so many people from Nepal have moved to Mumbai with dreams in their eyes, and Mumbai has been the city of dreams for so many, and this group of Nepalese players almost pulled it off. There's a massive Nepalese population here in Adelaide and all around Australia. So I'm sure they would have stayed up and cheered their team on as well, like just the Nepalese fans can. I mean, they just get around this team wherever they are and take a lot of pride in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even in the last World Cup, we saw them pack out Dallas, right? An
Mm.
entire stadium in Dallas got packed out by Nepalese fans. So, I love that there is a new team on the block that just gets a following wherever it goes, where the diaspora just like gets around it and gets excited by it. It's so important, and that's why I love a 20 team T20 World Cup is because you get to see cricket expand, and spread its wings a little bit.
Perfect. And that brings us to our first break of the show. And, let's talk about step one. Let's talk about underwear, because that's what you and I like to do when we're not talking about cricket, Andrew. With some of the shots I wear, underwear and the kind of underwear is very important. And that's where step one comes to the fore. I mean, it's a brilliant underwear company, and they have a great story. It started, do you know, in 2017, just a year before I moved to Australia, and began with founder Greg Taylor. He just wanted to fix something we wear every day. I mean, most people wear every day. I'm not sure about you. And 50,000 plus 5-star reviews. And you just, it's the design, it's the make of it. It's made from bamboo. Imagine that, bamboo underwear. Did you know that the underwear you wear is made of
I
bamboo?
did know. I have bamboo sheets and they are fantastic. They're the most comfortable. I mean, obviously, I live in Sri Lanka where it's humid, so I can imagine that bamboo underwear would be incredibly comfortable. I'm a big fan of my bamboo sheets.
There you go. It's comfort. And
Mhm.
look, I've always believed that whether it's pants or anything in life or underpants, it's all about give. And that's one thing you get with step one. There's give. There's comfort, and then there's give. And here on Final Word, and they've been such great backers of us. There's a 30-day trial period. In the highly improbable event you don't love them, so 15% off, but there is an offer code TFW148. And if you're wondering why that number, of course, it's because it's Tony Gregg's highest test score. And he made it twice. He made 148 twice. So 2 TFW 148. And probably the only cricketer, or the cricketer who was photographed the most in his underwear when he was at his peak. And he looked pretty good in his underwear as well. This is well before his Channel 9 days. And there was a photo shoot, TFW photo shoot at Lord's as well, that you can check out. There will be a direct link to that discount in the where you find in the show notes. Step one, get some. You are listening to the Final Word T20 World Cup Daily. It's day two of the World Cup. And alongside step one, we are also very thankful to our other sponsors, CBus. And one thing I've learned in Australia is super is very important, because that's it's almost a lifeline as you start earning and as you start growing in your career and in your life. And CBus have been one of our most enduring supporters right since the days Adam and Jeff, our good friends, decided to make this an independent venture. And we're proud to tell you CBus Super has a history of delivering strong investment returns to members. I attest to that. And you get your super sorted out in 2026. Visit cbussuper.com.au to read the PDS and TMD before determining if CBus is the right fit for you. Past performance is not an indicator of future performance. So, Andrew, we spoke about the two games. There was also the first game where New Zealand got over the line. They look like one of the favorites to me. They're coming off 8 white ball games in India, so they're primed, and they look ready, and they're going to be a threat going deeper into the tournament.
Yeah, and they've got that that hub of players that's just been really impressive since that 2023 World Cup as well. Obviously they had 2019 and an older generation of players left, but the Rachin Ravindras and the Glenn Phillipses and the Tim Seiferts that have come through are now they're still there. They had their great generation, but this generation's not too shabby either. So it's there. I suspect that they're going to make another deep charge into this tournament the way they have started out. And New Zealand aren't one of those teams that kind of have extremely good days and then don't hold that standard. They generally are pretty consistent at being at one place in these events. So I think if any team you can take that as a marker of like what's about to come, I think it's New Zealand. So very, very impressed again by them.
All right, and that brings us to the Hall of Fame. Mine, like I've already mentioned it before, was just Jayasuriya and how excited he was. It
Fist
felt
pumps,
like a
yeah.
Jayasuriya forward. What about you, Andrew?
Look, I can't look past this Barry McCarthy 11 ball over, man. This was like a Russian novel of an over. There was just so much happened in it as well, by the way. Okay, I'll just take the listeners through this, right? So starts off with I think it was like a chest high no ball that Kamindu Mendes, somehow got off the top edge and for 4, right? So next ball is going to be a free hit, but then he bowls 2 wides. Then he bowls the free hit, which Mendes smacks over mid wicket for 6. Okay. Then a 2-run ball, which is probably one of the least eventful balls. Another wide, and we're still into ball 3. We still haven't bowled more than 3 balls. Then he gets 2 wickets back to back. Gets Kamindu Mendes out, Sri Lanka's best batter. Gets Dasun Shanaka out with what was almost a no ball. If it had been like a few inches higher, that would have been a no ball too. Shanaka out first ball is suddenly into like the 75th ball of this over on a hat trick. And this is like reading Dostoevsky. You're like 300 pages into Crime and Punishment. You're still not halfway through the book. It's this was it finished in the funniest way as well. So he gets on a hat trick, bowls a wide for a hat trick ball, and then finishes with a dot.
He does
just
indeed.
to tie things up with nice and neat finishes with a dot. So ultimately, it was 19 runs off that over and 2 wickets. I think all up 4 wides and a no ball. Just not a high quality over, but also incredibly funny to watch.
It was, and you could be as illiterate as me and have never read a Russian novel and still have found it funny because it was that good. Now, thank you so much, Andrew. I know it's late there; it's definitely late here. It was an exciting day two of the 2026 World Cup, and it's always exciting here on the final word. Just a quick reminder: don't forget the 15% off. With our step one, TFW148 is the code. You will find the link in our show notes. Step one, start strong, finish stronger, just like you have, Andrew Fernando. I'll see you soon. And this was the Final Word Daily World Cup special.